A definite integral is an integral. Definite integral is an integral expressed by the integral of the difference of the higher limit and the lower limit of that integral. This is showed by b a f of x dx equals where this is the integral at b and this is the integral at a, and this is the difference of them, and this expresses the definite integral, and this is the higher limit and this is the lower. Now let's do some examples. So if we have, let's say the function is 3x squared plus 4x plus 6. And the interval is from 1 to 2. What we want to, dx. What we want to do first is find the integral of this. So the integral of this is you add 1 to the 2, and then you divide by the 3 here. And you just find the integral of this whole thing. And we usually, when you find the integral of something, you have to add c, but because this is just an interval, you don't have to add c. So this is it, right? And the interval is from 2 to 1. And so now we just do, we plug 2 into the integral, minus 1 into the interval. So minus, and we plug in 1. And now we just solve this, and that's how you get the answer to this definite integral. So you solve this integral by just evaluating this. 8 plus 8 plus 6 minus 1 plus 2 plus 6. And then this is 24 minus 9, which is 15. So the 15 is the answer to this definite integral. You can use the definite integral to find the integral of either one of the limits if you know the other one and if you know the value of the whole integral itself. So for example, if we know f of 5 and we know the integral from 5 to 0 and it's f of x equals, let's say, 2. And it's asking you to find f of 0. So f of 5 equals 3. And then f of 0 equals question mark. That's what we're trying to find. So we know this integral means this. The integral from 5 to 0, f of x dx equals big F, which is the integral of this, big F of 5 minus big F of 0. And we know this value and we know this value to find big F of 0. So this whole integral equals 2. So 2 equals, and we know big F of 5 equals 3 minus x, because that's what we're trying to find. And so we solve this out, we get negative 1 equals negative x, and x equals 1. So 1 big F of 0 equals 1. The integral of this function at 0 equals 1. We're going to do a little bit harder function now. It's a trig function, and you don't really have to solve it, but if we solve it, you can see how you can do it conceptually, and it makes sense. So if we do the integral from 0 to 2 pi of sine of x dx. Now usually I'd say f of big F, which is, because this is f of x, big F, so the integral of sine of 2 pi minus big F of 0. But if we just graph this instead of solving it out like this, we can do this, but if you just graph it, you can see it like easier and how you can just think about it right away. So we know sine is an odd function, and here is pi, 2 pi, and 0. So there's zeros at all these places. And so this is the graph of sine. So it's asking you to find the integral from 0 to 2 pi right here. Now, if you find the integral of 0 to 2 pi, it's just the area under these curves. So it's the area right here plus the area right here. And since we know this is an odd function, this area equals this area. But this is negative area, and this is positive area. And that would make sense because the area under this curve is equal to area under this curve. But this is negative, and it's telling you to find the integral from 0 to 2 pi, and you have to add these together, so it'd be like plus minus of the same thing equals 0. So now we already know this whole integral equals 0 without finding the actual values. We can actually find the values, which we'll do to prove it. Okay, let's write it again. Okay, and then this is f of 2 pi minus f of 0, and f is just the integral of this. And the integral of this is negative cosine x. And so basically, the cosine x and the bounds are 2 pi to 0. And we just plug these in. So negative cosine 2 pi minus negative cosine of 0. And then just negative 1 plus 1, which is 0. Okay, to wrap up, a definite integral is the difference of the integral of the higher limit and the lower limit. And this looks like b a f of x dx, and b is the higher and a is the lower, and this equals the integral of b minus the integral of a. Also, in simple terms, it's just the area under the curve from a to b, which is a boundary. Thank you.